This is Bryan Cox here with Ian Quiel.
Hey guys, how you doing?
So this is a discussion that's kind of unique and something you don't really think about because it's kind of in the rearview mirror for I think most off-roaders. Roller Fairlead, Hawse Fairlead. You know, this is kind of like archaic now, right? Kind of.
Yeah.
Nobody really wants to go with it, and you know, once synthetic lines came along, which we're all big fans of, we don't use these anymore. They don't sell them with the winches. They're only sold with steel. But is the roller Fairlead obsolete?
Well, it serves its purpose. If you have a steel line, you definitely want to have a roller Fairlead because that steel line will wear out. A Hawse Fairlead, it will actually grind a groove into the lead itself. Yeah. So you have to have one with a steel line, but for a synthetic line, you want to be careful because a lot of times that line can get snagged up in some of the grooves or corners of these roller Fairleads, and you can see like this one, the tolerance is not too good there, so it creates a gap where you might be able to have that line come off and get in there and get stuck, and so that's one of the advantages why most people have these with a synthetic line.
Okay, I would say people don't like these because they don't like the looks of them.
That too. I agree.
You can't. This looks a lot more cool, and you can get the color to match your bumper.
Sure.
And you know, just to play the devil's advocate, why don't we got to really avoid having our winch in the corners? You know, if we're doing a recovery with a winch line, we want it lined up as straight as we can, and I think the max deviation we want is 15 degrees,
right,
left to right, up or down. And if you're on the side, you could really side load the spool, which has its own issues.
Sure.
I'm kind of a big fan of the roller Fairlead, and I'm going to tell you why. This is my Hawse Fairlead, and what I noticed kind of quickly is that I got abrasion on the bottom of my Hawse Fairlead. And if you hand me that gray line, what I noticed happening, this is my very first winch line. It's a worn winch line. It got really fuzzy.
Yeah.
And I think what had happened is I was doing some really hard pulls, and I had some friction on the bottom of the Hawse Fairlead, and it was causing damage. Now, this is not fatal, but over time, you got to replace it, you know.
Sure.
Now, so honestly, I don't think I'd want this on my bumper either. You know, it's kind of dated. It's not really going to match everything, and you know these really do lend themselves to a modern bumper. You know.
Sure.
But there are now. I went to Factor 55 to see what they thought about the issue. I like Factor 55. They're a great company. Let's see if I can, there we go. So I was doing a little research, and they got, if you do a search for Factor 55, roller Fairlead versus synthetic, there's a little article here, and they quote, let's see, Nina Barlow. I didn't want to misquote it. Nina Barlow she's a master trainer with International Four-Wheel Drive Trainers Association. She's a big name in off-roading. They went to her, and she mentioned exactly what you said. I think you can't use the roller with a synthetic line if there's damage and whatnot. And at the very top of the article, Factor 55 answers the question. They say, well, what do we think? They said, what do we prefer? Hawse style. Now, their example of why you want to avoid a roller Fairlead is this is the photo they provided, which,
yeah,
you know, I'll be honest with you, it looks like it came out of Vietnam, Korea, and Uncle Frank when he had a drinking problem running into things.
It looks like it's been abused for sure.
No, that's not the roller Fairlead you want to use. Obviously, for I think even a steel one. So what's the alternative to a roller Fairlead of the traditional style? We do have options on the market that kind of like is a hybrid. Here's Rough Country. You know, they got this roller Fairlead, and I bet you could even paint the ends to match your bumper. Okay, not even that much money. This one's $25. And I found this one here. This is Super Winch makes it, and it's you know, it's a top bottom roller, not side to side. And then there's this is the one that I like the best, but it's the most expensive, and it's got rollers on all corners. So it takes the friction out. Now, if when I went to, I'm on my third winch line, and when I got my third one, I wanted to get I got a safe extract one. I got one that was expensive, and what I didn't want is this sort of abrasion anymore. So I went with a roller Fairlead to combat that, you know. Now here's a question, Ian. Is it possible that maybe my pulls were just too hard, you know, with this Hawse style, and maybe that was it? Maybe I should have used, you know, maybe I should have used a pulley block or something like that to take some of the strain out, or maybe because I did this one when I was more of a rookie, I admit, you know, and maybe I'm unique, you know. I don't know, what's your conclusion on that?
Well, I have a similar experience to you. I think I'm on my third or fourth winch line now, second vehicle, but the first couple of winch lines that I had were actually worn lines, which should be pretty good, but they wore out pretty quickly. Wow. They actually, you could see where they were, you know, disforming and having some heat issues on the rope itself from just rubbing across the tension that's on the Hawse Fairlead with the rope, and you could also see portions of the Fairlead where parts of the rope were left there. Yeah,
so it heats up. You know, a lot of force heats up. Now, granted, I think if you're, you know, if you're just in an off-road group, you may use your winch maybe once a year, maybe never. You know, on the flip side, you know, I don't do as many recoveries as you do, and a lot of people. I think I did 70 last year, and of the 70. My winch wasn't used on every pull. It was probably used on half of them, maybe.
Sure.
So, but we do some hard pulls sometimes, you know, and I know you use your winch a lot.
Yeah. So
maybe we're kind of unique. If it was me, I would recommend, I would go with Nina and say if the Fairlead's not damaged, use a fuller roller Fairlead to cut down on friction. Mm-hmm. But you know, it's something to think about because. You know, these roller Fairleads are kind of in the rearview mirror. Nobody's really considering them anymore, and these are the mainstay. But I think that has a potential to cause friction. You know?
I think there's a lot of opinions on this. I'll be honest. I'm going to stick with the Hawse on the synthetic, and the reason why is because if you're not properly maintaining your gear constantly, which a lot of guys don't do, you could run into a problem. For example, if these rollers ever stop spinning, or you don't properly clean them, lube them, keep them running properly, if there's any bends or any damages that happen to them, they're going to tear up your lines. So there's a lot of benefits to it if they're brand new and they're working really, really well and you keep them working well. I think for most guys that are out there, just hobby, you know, an off-road hobby, and they're not doing much recovery, I think
stick with this.
Yeah, stick with and that's what you're going to get. You're going to get one of these when you purchase a synthetic winch, right?
Yes, you are.
So.
And you know, I do get the point that we are going to bump things with our bumper, and bumping someone with this probably isn't going to cause any damage. Yeah.
And what would worry me too is if somebody's switching from steel to synthetic,
right? They're
going to have burrs like you were mentioning on here. So
that's true. Yeah.
Just make sure if you're going to go this route, you probably have to look at getting a brand new one of these if you're going to put synthetic line through it.
Right.
But to your point, I've done many side loading pulls, not because I chose to or wanted to. It was the only option we had on a really tight trail with no other anchor points.
Yeah.
And so there's been times where I've had to do that, and that's where this would have really came in much more handy than having this situation, right? So there's advantages, I think, to both.
Yeah, there you go. That's our take from with Ian here and me at Southern Valley for Recovery. Something to consider. There's some extra products out there that maybe aren't very well known. And if you're going to do some winching, maybe something to look into or consider at least.
Mm-hmm. Sure.